There are signs. I believe everybody has signs, and these signs come out. A lot of them are negative signs, which you're not paying attention to. Things that you hate, things that frustrate you. So you're in music, it isn't quite working, you feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's not a fit. So you make the wise decision that it's not for you to get out. What is it that makes you an individual, makes you unique, that you alone are meant to accomplish in life? Well, it's not given. We don't know it. And a lot of people really, really struggle with trying to figure that out. The lesson, I think, for people, because I get so many emails, people telling me, I don't know what my life's task is. I can't figure out what my purpose is. Can you help me? Can you help me? And there are signs. I believe everybody has signs. And these signs come out. A lot of them are negative signs, which you're not paying attention to. Things that you hate, things that frustrate you. So you're in music, it isn't quite working, you feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's not a fit.
Yeah.
So you make the wise decision that it's not for you to get out. Other people, they maybe feel that frustration, but they don't go there. They go, oh, I've already trained as a musician, I got to stick with it. They go and then they burn out. They're 30 years old and it's not working for them. They go, what's my life's purpose? I have no idea. Got to listen to the signs. Sometimes the signs are physical. They're literally in your body. You literally feel frustrated. You literally feel like you're swimming against the tide. It's not working for you. You get up in the morning, you're not interested in this. So the negative is very important, but also there's the positive, So for me, the negative was I actually hate office politics, which is very ironic for me.
Yeah.
Who wrote that. I can't stand working for other people. And so I have to work for myself. I have to be an entrepreneur. I have to write books. I have to have control. But then there are the positive signs. There's the signs of things that you love, that you're passionate about. They generally show up when you're very 6, 7, 8 years old. And so I tell people you've got to go through that process. You have to reconnect with the child inside of you, because children are dreamers. Every child thinks, I'm going to be president. I'm going to write a great novel. I'm going to do this, that, or the other. And then those dreams slowly get squeezed out of them.
Right.
But you have to return back to that. You have to have a little bit of that expansive quality, that little bit of imagination, even a little bit of naivete, and go back to who you were and go back to the things that excite you in a way that you can't even explain,
The negative feedback thing, one thing I notice in a lot of people, there's this narrative around grit, persistence, hustle culture, right? What I notice with a lot of people is when they start running into that resistance and it doesn't feel right, it feels painful, the first thing they tell themselves is like, oh, well, I just need to toughen the fuck up and keep going, because this is what all my heroes did, is they just kept fighting through it. And I think it's so much more nuanced than that, of like understanding when to push through and when to let go.
Well, the subtle art should be actually the title of your next book, because it is subtle, it is nuanced. Life is not so obvious. So sometimes grit and persistence is the right way.
Yeah.
So for me, writing, I failed at all these different aspects. I didn't give up. I didn't say, all right, my parents wanted me to go to law school, wanted me to settle down, wanted me to take these awful television jobs that I had, and I've had the worst television job you can imagine. I won't even say them. They want me to settle down, Yeah. I had to have the persistence to go, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick with it. I have faith in myself, even though I got very depressed. But also sometimes persistence can be exactly the wrong thing.
Right.
And the key to everything in life is knowing what you really, truly love, what you were meant to do, why you were born, why you're a different individual. I know it sounds like a cliche, but everybody, your DNA is unique. There's never going to be another Mark Manson. The way your brain is wired, the way your parents raised you, your early experiences, you are unique. And so that is where your power lies. And connecting to that is the source of everything in this world. So if you connect to it, if you know who you are, you know what you love, you know what you were meant to do, and it's not a cliche, it's actually very real, then that persistence will become an actual positive thing in your life, because you'll know, I can't keep kicking against a wall here. It's not what I was meant to do. I got to get out.
Yeah.
So I was 25, 26 years old. I was in New York working in journalism. I had a meeting with an editor after I wrote an article, and I didn't know what the meeting was for. And he was kind of an alcoholic. He was like on his second or third martini at lunch. And he basically said, Robert, you're not a good writer. You're not going to make it in this world. You need to go to business school. You're not disciplined. You're all over the place. You don't understand your audience, right? And so I could have said, fuck you. I could have stayed in journalism. I'd probably be dead by now. I'd probably be an alcoholic because it wasn't right. But I listened to it and I go, there's something true there. It isn't right. It isn't a good fit. I'm hitting against a wall. I got to get out and I got to try something else.
Yeah.
But if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what marked you as a weird person when you were a child, then you're lost in life.
Yeah.
You have no radar.
One thing that I tell people all the time is I ask them, what's the form of pain that you enjoy that most people can't tolerate, right? Like it's...
And you don't mean like in a kinky way.
No, not in a kinky way. No. Yeah, well, we don't judge here at the Subtle Art Podcast, but
just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah. Keep it a PG-13, Robert.
Sorry.
What is the challenge or struggle that you kind of relish? Like you kind of, like I know for me, and I imagine it's similar for you, like when I'm in the hole with a book, when I'm like just deep in a mess of a draft, and I'm like agonizing through it, I'm laying awake at night. You know what I'm talking
about. Going through it right now.
You know what I'm talking about. There's still kind of a sick part of me that likes it.
Yeah.
Like there's something thrilling about it.
Yeah.
And I think most people, they can't stomach it. Whereas like in music school, I remember the moment I decided to drop out of music school. I remember I was practicing 4 to 6 hours a day.
What did you play?
Guitar. So I was practicing 4 to 6 hours a day on top of all my classes. And I remember I went into one of my private tutors and tried to play a song for him. And he just looked at me and he's like, you know what your problem is? You don't practice enough. And like that was the moment I was like, I'm done. I can't.
And was the practice painful but not in a good way?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It was drudgery.
Yeah.
And to me that was a very profound lesson, because I loved performing and I loved getting attention because I could play some song or some solo, but I didn't like practicing. And musicianship is actually practicing.
It's all practice.
It's the 99% practice, 1% performance, right?
Yeah.
So it was a very painful lesson of like, you think you like this, but you don't actually like it.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah. Well, when you love something, when you have that connection like I'm talking about, then the practice, you enjoy it, you enjoy learning.
Yes.
Because you enjoy the process of getting better. And you can feel your brain kind of tingling and things are happening inside. And I tell people, if you have found the right path, if you are like an artist or creative, and you feel frustrated and you feel blocked, that's a good thing, right? That little bit of pain, that little bit of frustration, it's often a signal that you're actually on the verge of turning into the right direction. Because it's a signal that things aren't quite working out and you're listening to it. But if you get anxious and you don't listen to the frustration, then you can't be creative. You can't go into it.
Yeah.
But you'll learn at a much higher rate and you'll enjoy, because anything, as I said in Mastery, everything involves a degree of pain, a degree of practice, a degree of drudgery.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's going to come easy in life. So skill that you're going to learn is going to involve that. And if you're not connected to it in a deep way like you weren't with music, you're never going to learn fast enough, and you're just going to you're going to burn out too early. So if you're dealing with your own weaknesses and your own emptiness inside, you're going to be drawn to people who fill that up. Or you're going to be drawn to causes and charismatic leaders that pretend to give you a purpose in your life because you don't have a purpose, but they have it for you, kind of thing. So a lot of it has to do, with ourselves, and we're attracted to negative people. And there are people who have patterns in their life where they deliberately choose the worst kind of person for them, right? And over and over and over again, because at least that makes them feel alive. At least the pain of it, gives them a sense of something dramatic, and so they deliberately bring on that kind of pain. So it's complicated, yeah.
When you said that often we feel an emptiness inside, and you were saying maybe because of your upbringing you felt that emptiness inside as well. Have you tried to fill that emptiness, or is there another solution?
Well, to me, it's why I wrote the book Mastery. The way I fill my emptiness, and how I've done it since I was a kid, is through my work and through my ideas and my thinking, and how I'm constantly looking for new thoughts and new ways of looking at the world. So I find that if I didn't have my work as some people think of work as something that you just have to do, right? It's just a way to get money. But for me, it's a way to feel like I'm a human being, that I am who I am. I was destined to write these books, and it gives me every day I wake up and I know this is what I need to accomplish, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why I read so many books. That's why I'm so intrigued by ideas. That's why I'm writing a book right now about a subject that very much captivates me, because it does feel that inner kind of emptiness. But on the other hand, as someone who meditates and practices a form of Zen meditation, there is a purpose to emptiness, right? It's not necessarily good to be always having to fill things up in your brain, like you're just pouring food into your system. There is something actually kind of intrinsically beautiful about the idea that there is emptiness, that I don't really have a self, that there is no such thing as a mind. Actually, it's an illusion that we create, right? It's something something through words that we have. So that sense of emptiness, that I don't have an ego, or that I'm confronting the world and I'm just hearing and seeing things as they are, is actually a beautiful thing. So I have to kind of struggle against this idea of always having to fill myself up.
What's something you were saying you like observing humans and humanity? What's something that you've observed about humans over time that surprised you?
Well, nothing really surprises me, because I read a lot of history and I see that things just keep repeating over and over and over again. I know, though, since I had my stroke, and since I'm physically weak and there are things I can't do anymore, I've actually noticed that people respond to me differently, and it's actually very positive. So sometimes I can be very negative about people. That's kind of my inclination. That's how my mind tends to work, which is not necessarily a good thing. We all have these attitudes that make us look at the world a certain way. I tend to have a negative bent towards human nature. But I must say, people have been very, very kind to me since I've had my stroke. And it's sad that you have to have an accident like that to be able to perceive it. But I've seen another side where everyone wants to help me. They kind of empathize with the fact that I'm a little bit helpless in these situations. And it's also made me kind of feel differently about other people who have disabilities or things that they can't help in their lives. But the sense of I'm a little bit helpless and people are really eager to try and help me actually is something that has kind of surprised me in a way.
Yeah, I liked what you said there, that it's sad that someone has to go through something for us to then show that sides of ourselves, which means that it's always there. It means that it exists inherently within us.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, that if it's inherently there, we don't display it at all times to all people?
I don't know. I mean, we're all born with a capacity for empathy. It's something that interests me a lot because The feeling that I'm connecting very deeply to another person, let's say my wife, etc., is a very overpowering emotion. Gets me out of myself, and I'm seeing the world through her eyes, as opposed to me always projecting myself onto her. It's a very moving experience. And sometimes you go to a movie and you find yourself getting inside the characters, you're getting outside of yourself, and you're feeling this empathy for them, you're identifying with them. These are all very powerful emotions, right? And we all have the capacity for that. But the world we live in is actually a machinery to deaden those emotions, that sense of empathy, right? It's just put so much emphasis on ourselves, on our individuality, on who we are, our needs, the attention that we want, that we deserve. We're so focused on ourselves that natural feeling of wanting to get inside of another person. And it's very strange, Jay, because if you think about it, our inner lives are actually quite boring. The same thoughts repeat over and over and over again, the same emotions, the same preoccupations, the same anxieties. And other people, they're so different. They have their own worlds, right? It's like traveling to another country. So we should actually be much more oriented towards other people. We should have a natural interest in their world because it takes us out of ourselves. It's like therapy. But it's been deadened by so many things in our world, by social media, by the pressures we're under, by just modern lifestyle. And so that empathetic muscle that everybody has is kind of atrophying. And yet there'll be moments where it kind of sparks to life and you feel like, God, I want that. I want more of that in my life, more of that in my world. How do I get it?
What would you say is your most repeated thought on a daily basis?
Like, what do I need to do today? What's on my schedule? So like I'm meditating in the morning and I'm trying to empty my mind and I'm going into what's known as a koan, right? And then these thoughts keep bubbling up and they're so annoying and it makes you aware of of the machinery of your own mind. And so to answer your question, it's always like, oh, did you remember that you have to call this person this afternoon? Did you remember that you have to change that reservation? Do you remember that you have to do this, that, the other? Scheduling things. So unimportant, so trivial, where I'm trying to open my mind up to something vast and important. It's little things like scheduling and stuff like that. Then there'll be other thoughts that will be repeating, like if I saw a movie from it, images will keep popping up from that and such. It makes you aware that you're not in control of your own mind, right?